Dhurandhar is yet again riding high on success. And sitting in the theatre, I kept thinking one thing. The real files are more astonishing. Not more dramatic, not louder. Because in real espionage history, the tradecraft is stranger. The human cost is heavier. And the wisdom buried inside these stories is something no screenplay has ever fully captured. Today we open real files, and by the end I promise you will walk away with something that goes way beyond spy stories. I'm Katyani, this is Katie Lately, let's go. Cambridge University, England, the 1930s. Five young men, brilliant, privileged, educated at the most elite institution in Britain, watched the world fracturing. Fascism rising across Europe, a global economic depression, and they look at the existing order and see something they believe is fundamentally broken. One by one, they are quietly recruited by Soviet intelligence under that threat, not for money, out of genuine conviction. Daniel Maclean, Guy Burgess, Kim Philby, Anthony Blunt, and John Cairncross. The Cambridge Five, within a decade of graduation, all five had worked their way into senior positions in intelligence, diplomacy, and government, passing everything they saw to Moscow. Elite operations were compromised. Intelligence networks across Eastern Europe were burned. Plans shared in confidence between allied governments were transmitted to Moscow within days. Here's the detail that is almost impossible to process. Kim Philby, the most senior of the five, rose to become head of MI6 anti-Soviet section. The man specifically tasked with catching Soviet intelligence assets was himself one. For years he attended the meetings, he reviewed the files, he wrote the reports, and here is why they weren't caught sooner. Because they were too Cambridge, too elite, too obviously one of us. The class assumption that men of this background simply couldn't be communist agents was the most perfect cover imaginable. Philby eventually fled. He lived the rest of his life in Moscow, celebrated publicly as a hero of the Soviet state, privately by every account, profoundly isolated. An exile in the country he had served his entire career and never actually belonged to. He died in 1988, having given everything to a system that gave him an apartment and a slow, lonely end. Certainty, absolute unquestioned certainty that your cause is righteous, is the most dangerous psychological state a human being can inhabit. The Stoics called it dogmatic assent. The Bhagavad Gita called it ahamkar, the ego of righteousness. And every wisdom tradition across human history has said the same thing. The person most certain they are serving a higher truth is the person most capable of catastrophic harm. Hold your beliefs, examine them constantly, because the Cambridge Five don't think they were traitors, they thought they were heroes. That's not espionage wisdom, that's just wisdom. Subscribe to Katie Lately, new perspective every week.